again, everyone. Today I am here to do a comparison of 6 different brands of Potter's Pink. This is a video that I have had numerous requests for after I suggested it on one of my videos, and so I thought I would go ahead and do that today. So I actually already did this video once, and then I realized that I had forgotten that I had a Schmincke Potter's Pink. I had left Schmincke out. So I have put that in a pan, but the only thing is all of these others are dried in the pan. You can't really tell what they are, but I have them labeled on the side so that I can see them. But this one I just put in the pan, the Schmincke brand. So I'm going to try my best to make sure that I make it an accurate comparison, even though it's still wet in the pan and the others are dried. Try and add the same amount of paint. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. I will start with the one that is still wet in the pan, and that is the Schmincke. I have some water off to the side here, and there we go. I'm just going to have that in the frame. So let's go ahead and go for, and I might have to go back and forth a little bit on the Schmincke, but I'm going to go into the Schmincke. Okay, I think I'm going to get a little bit more. Okay, and what I'm going to do with all the samples is I'm going to add water to the second half so that we can really see how that granulation does when it is watered out. Okay, so the next one I'm going to do is Renaissance, and I'm going to try and do the same amount of wetting in the pan for all of the different colors. Obviously the Schmincke, you know, it's going to be a little bit skewed because it is from a wet sample. So, and this one, when I did them previously, was the weakest of the bunch, so I think that this is pretty much what we're going to get out of that. And I'm going to put the water on the end. Okay, and then I'm going to do Colors of the Iron range. And I will put links to where you can get each and every one of these colors. This one re-wets really easily, so I don't think I need to rub it as much. Okay, and I actually like this one so much I got another pan of it because it's really super pretty. Okay, and then I'm going to do the Roman Schmal. And you can kind of see as I'm wetting the pan how different brands wet differently. Okay, so I'm going to go out to the end here. There we go. And now I'm going to do the Winsor Newton. So I'd say that 3 of these that I am doing are kind of mainstream brands, like the Winsor Newton, the Daniel Smith, and the Schmincke, whereas the Colors of the Iron range, which is a handmade watercolor, is not as commonly found, obviously, and the Roman Schmal is kind of new to the scene, and then the Renaissance is kind of hard to get here in the United States. Except there is an Etsy shop where you can get it. Okay, so this next one is Daniel Smith. And I'm just going to go all the way out. So what I'm currently using in my everyday carry palette is the Daniel Smith. But I think that I'm going to switch to the Winsor Newton because pretty much everyone has, not everyone, but a large portion of people who use Potter's Pink in their everyday palette sort of gravitate towards the Winsor and Newton. And I can kind of see why in this sample, because you're really getting a lot of very even granulation, both in the darker portion and in the lighter portion. Like for example with the Roman Schmal, I added a lot of water over here. You're just not getting a whole lot of granulation showing up here. And I'm actually going to show you, and I don't know why they turned out so differently. So I'm going to show you the other samples that I did originally. This is everything but the Schminke. So on the Roman Schmal, it's pretty similar, although this looks a little bit more washed out. Colors of the Iron Range, it looks pretty much the same between the two samples. Winsor Newton, you're getting kind of the same effect from the two samples. Here, let me see if I can put them in the same frame. There you go. And the Daniel Smith, same deal. But I did want to show you the two different ones of the Renaissance, which for this one came out a little bit darker than this one. And the Roman Schmal looks a little different here. So, you know, depending on how you lay down the color and how you're testing it out, it could kind of skew the results a little bit. But I think for the most part, this is a pretty accurate depiction. So I did do, here I'll show you this again before I show you these close up. I did do a little bit of mixing with both the Daniel Smith and the Winsor Newton. So I did it with the same colors. I may have gotten the concentrations of the different colors a little bit off, but as you can see, the look is very, very different. So this was with Daniel Smith Cobalt Teal, both of them. And this one sort of has sort of a milky, like underwater look almost. And this just looks like straight up granulation. And the same is true for, I think, pretty much all of these. You're getting sort of a milky, watery look as opposed to two colors mixed together with granulation. I have been using this Daniel Smith, and this is kind of what I was used to. But I think I really do like this very sort of soft effect that you get with the Winsor Newton. So this is the Daniel Smith mixed with sap green. Same here, Winsor Newton with the sap green. This is Daniel Smith mixed with the Schminke lemon yellow, mixed with the Schminke lemon yellow. And this one is mixed with Lunar Earth, which is a similar color to this, but I did want to see how two different granulating colors. The Cobalt Teal is also granulating. So there you go. That's just some extra mixes. And then let's go ahead and take a look at these. The Schminke is also very nice. So really the reason why I'm considering switching is you can see this granulation from the very tippy top where it's dark all the way down into the light. So regardless of my value that I'm putting on the paper, I'm going to get this textured granulation effect. With the Daniel Smith, you can't see it as much in the darker side as you can when it is watered out. In the watered out version, it looks fairly similar. You're also getting a darker tone with the Daniel Smith. A lot of people have complained about the Daniel Smith looking a little muddy. I kind of like the color that it is, and quite frankly, it's actually not that different from the Winsor Newton or from the Schminke, really. When you look at the darkest quality here, it's not that different in color. I think that you are getting sort of a different mass tone with the Renaissance, Colors of the Iron Range, and Roman Schmal. I feel like they're a little bit more wispy and delicate, but again, you're not seeing the granulation in the darker portion. And again, I don't know why this Renaissance ended up so watered out. Same here with this Renaissance. It's the same color, it's just a different sample. You're just not getting as much granulation up here as you are down here. Although, you know, it's not as uniform as the Daniel Smith now that I'm looking at it. And I think so much depends on how much color you have on your brush at any given moment. So comparisons are kind of hard. But I definitely think even in this sample, the Renaissance is the lightest as far as value goes. And then I would say based on these, the second lightest is probably the Roman Schmal. And then from there, I would say it's maybe a tie between the Schminke and the Colors of the Iron Range. And then these are similar, but I still think the Winsor Newton's just a tad lighter, and the Daniel Smith is probably the darkest of the bunch. So there you go. Let's see. What else did I want to cover? So I do want to try and do some more color comparisons, and this one, you know, I had been planning this for so long, and then I finally did it, and then I realized I'd forgotten that color, and I just really, I think it kind of put me out of sorts. So what I am going to do is I think I'm going to also, I'm going to move this one back into frame, and I'm going to do the Schminke on top here and see how it compares with these samples. And it has dried a little bit, but you're still getting a pretty wet version of the color here. I'm going to add a little bit more water here. So these are probably more accurate as far as the color and tone than the most recent one that I did there on camera. And part of why I wanted to show it to you on camera instead of just showing you the one that I did is because then you could see how each of the different brands re-wet as I put a wet brush to them. Of course, you're not really seeing that with the Schminke because it's still wet from the tube. But there you go. I mean, they all have their charm, I would say, and they all are. They're all Potter's Pink. They're all the same pigment. They're all PR 233, I believe. So you're getting the same pigment. It's just, you know, the formulations in the different brands are going to create different effects. And based on this, I still am really liking the Winsor Newton. I am going to swap it out in my everyday palette for the Daniel Smith, see how I like it. One of the reasons why I had not done this before, and I don't think I mentioned this already, is that I have been having some trouble mixing Daniel Smith and Winsor Newton colors together. Like it's almost like the pigments push each other apart and they don't really mix very well. And this is kind of a known issue, but it doesn't seem to go across all the pigments. So I know Liz Steele uses Winsor Newton Potter's Pink with a lot of Daniel Smith in her palette. I will actually put a link to her artist page. She's a great sketcher, watercolor sketcher. She also has some great classes if you're interested. And I'm not necessarily a purist as far as using all the same brand. I do have mainly Daniel Smith in my everyday palette, but if I find a Potter's Pink that I prefer better than Daniel Smith, I'm going to go for it, and that's going to be the way I go. So I'm pretty open that way. All right, so let me bring these back one more time. These are probably all dry now. I will show these to you close up, and then I'm going to show you this other one close up. And then we're going to go. Okay, so there's those. And there's those. I just really wanted to give you an accurate comparison. And I think in some ways it's good to see the different ways it could actually swatch out, because there's so many different variables. There's the pigment, whether it's dry or wet, how much water you're adding, how much you're brushing your brush across the pan. It's so many different things. So even with these two samples, you can see I came up with some pretty different concentrations of the color on the paper. All right, well, I think that's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. I do plan to do some more color comparisons and hopefully get all my colors together at the beginning. That's something I want to do in the future. I had a request to do a color comparison of Naples yellows, and I just don't have enough of those. I only have two, and I just don't feel like that's good enough for a true comparison. And the two colors that I have, one is Rembrandt and the other is Core, and I feel like the Core color is just like not even Naples yellow. It's more like a yellow ochre, so it's not even really a good comparison between the two. But with colors that I have a lot of, for example, ultramarine blue or something like that, if you have any particular watercolors across different brands that you would like to see compared, just let me know. I'll take it into consideration, and it'll also depend on what I have in my collection and whether I have the ability to do that. But Potter's Pink was one that I had a lot of and knew I could do some pretty good comparisons here. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. Feel free to subscribe to keep track of future videos on my channel. I hope to see you next time, but in the meantime, have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye.